Let's begin.
Hey there, scary story fanatics. Welcome back to Cleaving Thought from Bone with your host, Sociopathic. So glad you could join us both for a night of fun and scares. Kid, are you gonna join us?
No, I'm trying not to die.
Well, if you think she's stuck in there, just wait. Pull up your favorite chair and keep an eye on that plushie. It's time for a story that may virtually terrify you to death. I call this one Night in VR. Help Needed.
What is it about traumatic events that underscore duality? That is, why do some survivors of shark attacks fear the water, never to return again, and others still become, for a lack of a better word, immersed in it? No pun intended. My name is Chris, and it's my own stupid fault that I ended up in this situation to begin with. A few months ago, a friend and I decided to explore the burned-out remnants of a manufacturing and distribution center right here in my hometown. Things didn't go well. I watched my friend die in that old, charred building not long ago. And though the event surely traumatized me, my behaviors as of late, as a result, may surprise you. Apparently, if I were a surviving shark attack victim, I would be the immersive type. A veritable cage diver of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. And although I had yet to shake my unease entirely, I was determined to do so. Or so at least, gain more understanding. After Shane's death, that had been dubbed a disappearance, I played as many of the FNAF games as I could. But I'm a broke teen, and my parents have pretty strict requirements regarding pirating software to their computer. So, out of options, I needed to pick up a job for some extra money. Picking up the newspaper, as if I were an adult, I scanned the classifieds for help needed job postings. This is what led me to babysitting. Okay, so it's not the most glorious job for a guy, but the work was more than easy, and these people paid decent. On a dark and windy afternoon, my father drove me to the residence of the young couple on the other side of town. They had only one child, and she was about the age of 10. So the kid could basically watch herself. All I really had to do was make sure that she didn't get hurt, and that she didn't eat too much junk food. Easy enough, really. My father parked in the driveway a distance from the front door and sat in his car, awaiting the outcome of my knocking upon the door. Within moments, the door opened, and I was greeted by the smiling face of a gentleman who really did not appear much older than my older brother. His wife was in the kitchen, finishing up the dinner that she had prepared for us in their absence, and as I entered the home at the man's request, my father backed out of the driveway. The Vogt family was more than pleasant enough. They had graciously prepared a buffet of pizza, chips, soda for us to snack on while they were away. They informed me that it was the weekend and that their daughter, Shyla, had no real set bedtime, but they would have liked to have come home the following day to hear that she had gone to bed by, say, 11 o'clock, as they so put it. I knew that they wouldn't be back until the following day. They both had told me they were spending the evening at a casino for their anniversary, spending the night in one of its luxurious hotels. With some final instructions regarding emergency numbers and procedure to me, and a kiss on the cheek goodbye for Shyla, Mr. and Mrs. Vogt left the residence for their evening of fun, dooming me to an eternity of terror. The night started off uneventfully, simply lounging around the living room, watching Cartoon Network and snacking in silence. After a few episodes of whatever it was that we were watching at the time, Shyla decided to speak up.
Do you want to play a game with me?
She asked. I love video games and was honestly feeling a little bored, so I happily agreed. What do you want to play? What systems do you have? I inquired.
We have a Switch upstairs, but I was wondering if we could play VR.
She asked, pointing over towards the television and the entertainment center that it sat upon. Sitting underneath the TV sat a pair of jet black objects, each having a green indicator light illuminated on their left sides. Oh, cool! You have VR? I eagerly asked her, excited at the thought of trying VR for the first time.
Yep.
She affirmed as she walked over to one of the headsets, unplugged the black cord from it, assumedly for charging, and walked back over to me with it, 2 cordless controllers in hand. The thing was wireless. I've heard of these before, but again, never tried one, and the thought of being able to enter a world that I've enjoyed so much through a window for the first time filled me with a joy that only a child could know. She handed me the object, instructing me which hands to put the controllers on, and helped me ease into the process. The child was like a virtual reality expert. Before long, my room scale boundary was drawn so that I could not break any expensive items in a home that was not mine, and I was experimenting with all kinds of apps. I fought Darth Vader on top of his castle. I got the chance to fly a gyroplane, and I even hopped in a sports car and battled my way into second place in a game-like experience so similar to Mario Kart, it edged on the line of what was to be considered legal infringement. I honestly felt as if I were experiencing a whole new world for the very first time. At the startle of a shout, I pulled the headset free from my face, realizing that I had no concept of what was going on around me, afraid the child I should have been watching had gotten hurt as a result of my negligence. Immediately, I saw her, standing in the foyer in front of me, the other black VR headset on her face. She looked scared, but was also laughing. Hey, Shyla, what happened? Are you okay? I asked her.
Yeah.
She giggled.
I'm playing FNAF VR.
She concluded, piquing my interest. I had heard of FNAF VR before, and I'd always wanted to try it. I asked the child if I could give it a try, as my headset did not have that particular game downloaded. Shyla agreed, and we swapped headsets with one another. Immediately putting on the headset, I felt an instant wave of panic and dull, throbbing fear. The things I had tried so far, fighting Vader and the like, had felt so real, completely immersing me within those worlds. Now, I stared up to a dimly lit crimson stage, Freddy Fazbear in the center, Bonnie to his left, and Chica to his right. A small window floated into the air before me, providing me with several options, including Start Game. However, I didn't press it right away. I instead swayed back and forth, watching intently those eyes set within those animatronic heads, and the fucking things stared back. No matter where I moved, their eyes and even their heads followed me. It was creepy as hell, and I couldn't help but be brought back to that fateful night that I lost my friend. I had to face this fear head on. I lifted one of my shaking virtual hands and pressed the start button. I was instantly transported to the inside of a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza restaurant. In front of the main stage sat a table, upon which resided a monitor screen and a lever switch, and a bucket of candy beckoning me to purchase the DLC. Having read about this game, I'd heard about the Dreadbear content. I found myself slightly disappointed knowing that I wouldn't get to try it, but I was still thrilled to even try this experience at all. I mean, the devs obviously put a lot of work and love into this title. All of the textures seemed fleshed out and substantial. The 3D effects applied were on point, and the looming shadows everywhere made me wonder what could be hiding within them. Before selecting one of the various games to try, I scanned this menu screen type loading area. Balloons and tables, all decorated in birthday decor. Then, I caught something out of the corner of my left eye. Turning to face it, it looked like a large, cartoon, yellowish-looking bunny with purple eyes, and he was waving at me. He looked like Springtrap, but was more cartoonish and less robot-looking. But there was something else about him, as if his avatar was pixelated or fuzzy like it was glitched. Shyla? Who's this weird bunny-looking thing waving at me? I asked, detectable apprehension in my tone.
Oh, that's Glitch Trap. It's part of the hidden lore of the game.
She replied back. Oh, okay, I responded. I mean, it did catch me off guard, but there was no reason for alarm. It was part of the core game, after all. Waving back at the silent and sinister-looking fiend, I turned to face the monitor on the table. Up first was FNAF 1, and to make things easy on myself, just so I could get my feet wet, I chose Night 1. I was once again transported away, and after selecting Continue at the instructions screen, I faded into existence within that office from the first game. Trash littered the desk, to which I could pick up and throw it out into the hall. Very well digitally rendered fan spun and buzzed on top of the monitor set. The man on the phone rattled on about welcoming me to Freddy Fazbear's, instructing me on how to play the game. The premise was exactly the same. Conserve energy, monitor the security cameras, close doors only as needed, and survive until 6 a.m. However, the thing being room scale, I quickly realized that I no longer needed to stay within the confines of the office. I could walk through either door and possibly explore the establishment, only restricted by the room scale itself. Curious, I began to walk through the door to my right, and no sooner had I stepped foot beyond the boundaries of the door did I hear something running down the hall behind me, beyond the door that was to my left. In a split second, I realized this to be the sound that Foxy makes when he comes after you, but Foxy didn't leave the Pirate's Cove at all on Night 1, so this made no sense. Again, this happened in a fraction of a moment, and I had no time to even reach for the door. I turned to close it in a panic, and Foxy lunged at me, providing me with a game over, and sending me back to the menu area that was Fazbear's Pizzeria. I could hear the child giggling nearby from where I stood.
You can't leave the office. Foxy comes after you.
Shyla laughed. I didn't know that. That was scary. I kind of laughed back at her, the two of us enjoying a moment of joviality, a moment that should have been thoroughly savored. For in the next, things went so horribly sideways. Oh crap, I said to my child companion.
Oh man, now the power's out. What are we gonna do now?
She asked me. The raging storm outside must have knocked down a few power lines. Well, I guess that ends that, I said, a bit defeated.
I mean, not really. The VR will still work. It runs on batteries. We just have no Wi-Fi, so...
Shyla began to explain, and therefore, certain apps would not function. But I had an idea. My parents made sure to send me with my mother's cell phone, just in case of an emergency. Luckily for us, this particular cell could double as a Wi-Fi hotspot. "No worries, kid. I got it taken care of," I said, pulling out my phone and flipping on the Wi-Fi. Shyla and I worked on connecting her headsets to the Wi-Fi, set some candles around the space to facilitate the necessary tracking, and I was set to continue my exploration of a whole new reality, the child occupying herself with her headset as well. But as soon as I loaded up the Help Wanted app, and I stood before that stage, with a band of animatronics towering over me, I immediately noticed that something was wrong. The eyes of Freddy were all wrong. Like that of Circus Baby, they were now a bright green.
Wait, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't supposed to happen.
Shyla spoke with surprise. I turned with the headset into the direction that her voice had come from, fully prepared to take the goggles off and take in her expression and comprehend exactly what she was talking about. But in the same instant, the answer to my confusion was provided. Standing behind me, in the virtual menu area, was a digital representation of a little girl, looking to be about 10 years old, and retaining similar features as Shyla. When she exclaimed,
"What the heck?"
once more, I realized that this was indeed her. Now, I'm no VR expert, but even I knew that this shouldn't happen. This was not a normal function of the game. "I thought you said that headset doesn't have FNAF," I reminded Shyla in confusion.
It doesn't, and even if it did, this shouldn't be able to happen. It's not a multiplayer game, and this isn't how VR works.
She told me, a bit of fear in her voice. "Well, what game do you want to play?" I asked her, now realizing that the foxy animatronic was behind me the whole time, lingering in the darkness, just behind Shyla, as if waiting to pounce on her.
"No, I don't want to play. This isn't supposed to happen,"
she said, just before she removed the headset. I, however, still driven by that unknown fuel of obsession, I had to know more. So I pushed onward, pressing the Start Game button. I can't be sure, but I could have sworn that foxy animatronic took a full step in my direction, just as I loaded out of the world, fading back into the next menu area located inside Fazbear's Pizzeria. Once inside, surrounded by colorful balloons and happy birthday signs, I once again noticed that odd rabbit Shyla called Glitch Trap. Glitch Trap still smiled and waved, his appearance blurry and staticky, but as he stood there, parts of his appearance seemed to shift. His arms and face a blurry shade of brown as opposed to the yellow of the menacing bunny. Its eyes infrequently changing from purple to green and back to purple again at random intervals. I honestly was going to inspect the thing closer, but as if something were attempting to control my actions, or as if I had lost tracking on my left controller, my in-game hand drifted to the side and selected Night 1 of FNAF 1. As the game faded to black once more, I could have sworn I saw Glitch Trap's grin grow even wider with delight as his face changed to that of an odd-looking Freddy Fazbear. When the world around me had faded back into existence, I at first thought the wrong game had loaded. I was in a room with a door on each side. Fazbear's Pizzeria marketing material was hung on the wall before me, all very much like the first game. But there were no security cameras, no lights or buttons to push, and the aesthetics of the room appeared more like FNAF 4 as opposed to 1. There was a blue carpeting on the floor, white baseboard, but no closet or bed. However, as like in a few entries of the game series, there was indeed a phone next to me. The phone rang, begging me to reach out with my virtual hands and answer it. Upon holding it to my ear, I heard an ethereal voice whispering on the other end. The airy words held a jumbled cadence that made phrases hard to identify, and only a few could be made out with confidence. Words like rebuild, challenge, it was us, and Scott. Again, these phrases made no sense to me, and I knew of no one named Scott. I couldn't help but let my thoughts wander to the creator of the game, and what his true intentions may have been all along. However, the story of those two friends who tried spending the night at a Fazbear's pizzeria, only to end up either dead or missing, crept into the forefront of my mind. Wait, weren't their names Scott and Paul? I asked myself out loud.
Huh? Scott who?
Shyla spoke to me from somewhere within the real world that existed beyond these virtual reality goggles. I put the phone back down and rescanned the room, too astounded to answer Shyla back. I slightly lifted the headset from my face to see the real world around me, and then back over my eyes to take in my virtual environment. No way, I mumbled, fear hitched in my tone.
No way, what? Will you please tell me what's going on?
Shyla responded, reminding me that I had not answered her previously, and the girl likely now stood on even more confused mental footing. But I was too in awe, too taken aback by what I was seeing. I continued checking and rechecking the similarities between these two realities as I switched my vision back and forth. I didn't know if somehow the headset scanned the room, or if there was any kind of hidden bonus content like the tapes that I had accidentally triggered. But the coincidence in likeliness was uncanny. Somehow, inside a virtual representation of the living room, the game mimicked my real-life surroundings.
What's that?
Shyla asked, now tugging on my shirt. I then realized that I could see her, or at least a lifelike avatar of her, fuzzy and staticky, like the glitch trap before. Shyla had placed her headset back on, tired of the non-answers that she was getting from me. Somehow, when she did, she was once again transported back into my virtual environment and was now pointing at something slumped in the corner, near to the aperture on the right that led to both the kitchen and the stairs. Whether it had been there the whole time or appeared there when I turned to look at her, I don't know. But realizing my room scale boundary to be off, but somehow within the confines of a virtual reality app that mimicked my real-life surroundings, I simply walked closer to it and examined the thing. It was an animatronic, but broken and partially taken apart. The fur covering the endoskeleton beneath was brown, indicating that this was a Freddy Fazbear animatron. Beside it, on the floor, were various parts, such as eyeballs and a face covering that looked very much like a teddy bear. Before I could react, mid-examination, Shyla had bent down and picked up one of the eyeballs.
Here, put this in, but I'm pretty sure they're wrong,
Shyla said, outstretching her hand to me. I took the large, softball-sized eyeball from her hand, asking her, wrong how?
They're green. Freddy's eyes aren't supposed to be green,
she stated factually, and she was right. Freddy's eyes were in fact not supposed to be green. But then again, the game isn't supposed to scan your house and place random animatronics within it either. I should have just taken off the headset at this point, gotten the hell out of the house, and taken Shyla with me until her parents returned. But I felt like the game was trying to tell me something, relay some critical tidbit of information, and I felt internally obligated to press on, determined to entertain my curiosity a little bit more. Being very careful, and with methodical movements and intents, I inserted the eye into Freddy's right eye cavity, to which it snapped into place. Shyla was already handing me the other, allowing me to take it from her and insert it into place as well, into the left socket. I bent down and picked up the teddy bear-like mask from near to my feet, examining it for a long moment, before taking a deep breath and fitting it over the top of the animatronic's mechanical head. The two green eyes stared back at me from beneath the furry covering that I had just placed there. I had expected the thing to jump at me at any second, but instead, the thing opened its clenched paw, revealing an object too fuzzy to make out, as if it were made of green static.
That's a tape recorder,
Shyla exclaimed, but my voice had become silent with fear, paralyzed at all the inferences of what the hell was going on. But I knew it before she had said it, and I had realized what the thing was before the girl had given it a name. Inside the green static, as if cradled by the glitchy green snow, resided a black cassette tape with a white label. I knew the thing to be a tape player the moment that I identified the object inside. I stared hard at the cassette for a moment, reading the two words written on the label over and over again. It's me. As if the meaning ran as deep as a novel. Forcing myself to just get it over with, having a strong desire to hear what had been recorded on it, I reached out and pressed the button on the side that I assumed to be play.
I was part of them. They took me in, but I wasn't always this way. I was scanned and forced into this place like the rest of them. But I'm not like the rest of them. They're crossing over. Will you help me? Find me. Let me save you.
The tape ended. Shyla and I just stared at each other for a moment, unsure of what we had heard. Something creaked in the room nearby. And as we looked at what it was, a large creature lunged from behind the door jamb that separated the kitchen from the living room, right near to both of us. I grabbed Shyla by the arm and yanked her up the stairs with me, away from that thing. As I did, near the top of the stairs, I paused, only for a moment, alternating between the VR goggles and the reality that existed without them. As I did, I saw the tattered and decrepit animatronic get closer and closer, its beak stretched wide to form a rectangular large gap lined with herbivore-like teeth, its eyes bleeding a black ooze that leaked down its yellow, feather-like face. And even though the thing disappeared each time I took the goggles off, the horrid smell that accompanied its presence lingered and remained, and each time I looked through those lenses, the thing had gotten closer. I knew then that, no matter if I were wearing them or not, this creature was fast approaching me all the same, and at least with the headset, I could see it coming. I hesitated no further, my motivation for survival renewed. I turned with Shyla in hand, headsets donned, and faced the cavernous hallway before us, at the top of the stairs.
Where are we going?
Shyla asked, shaken and disturbed. Apparently, we're going this way, away from that thing, I stated plainly, pointing toward the distal end of the hallway that now stretched out long before us on the second floor of this large home.
But something's not right. I want my mom and dad. I want to get out of here.
The girl said to me, nearly sobbing. The sound of whirring and loud footsteps began clomping up the stairs behind us, ever closer to us. Shyla, we have to move, like right now, I exclaimed, turning around to see two glowing eyes in the black getting ever closer. I urged her to take off the headset, but she wouldn't have it. She insisted on being able to see what was going on. brave kid. I began heading down the black throat of the nightmarish corridor at a hastened pace. Only a few steps down it, Shyla stopped dead in her tracks, forcing me to halt my progress as well. The mechanical sounds of the nightmare behind us continued to get ever closer. "What the hell are you doing?" I said to her in a panic. Shyla simply pointed behind me, toward the wall of the hallway. As I turned, I heard a creak of a door opening behind me. Now facing the direction of the noise, I was slowly bathed in an increasing crimson light as the door near to me slowly opened to reveal the creature beyond opening the door. I stood stock still, with Shyla in hand, the sounds of the monster behind us getting closer, and the one before us looming out into the hall, looking directly at us. It was tall and shaped like a terrifying visage of a rabbit. 2 long ears sprouted from its skull, within which resided 2 beady, glowing red eyes, and the arm that extended out to grip the doorframe was tipped with a talon-like paw, digits more like long, slender spikes than fingers. But instead of coming out the door, as if not having seen us standing there in the dark, motionless and terrified, the thing slowly closed the door, the thing groaning with age, clicking into place once shut. Not wasting any time, too afraid to look behind us and see the thing that was surely looming over top of us by now, I began to run the length of the corridor until lightning flashed outside, illuminating the hall as if it were day. A single name written all over the walls, over and over again. Scott. As if tagged with blood graffiti, and in the center, standing in our way, was a tall, robotic beast, somewhat hunched over. Its snout was long, and its teeth slender, numerous, and sharp-looking. Its head was tipped with 2 pointed ears, 1 eye, by a black eye patch, and its right paw replaced with a large, curved hook. The instant I saw the beast, it too saw me. Shyla screamed as the lightning flash ended, leaving us in darkness just as it turned its head to target us both and began to charge at us. I could hear the thing sprinting towards us in the dark, and I knew it was close. I grabbed the child gripped tight in my hand and shifted right, just as the thing lunged at me, causing it to miss and tumble towards whatever stalked us from behind. I removed myself from place that was pressed up against the wall and began sprinting towards the end, leaving the robotic monsters behind us in the dark. Doors on our left and right once again creaked, illuminating everything in a red hue. I didn't stop. The sound of footsteps fast approaching from behind us. Clawed hands reached out from the doorframes as we passed them, the Nightmare Bonnie once again to our left, and Nightmare Chica to our right. I swear that I could feel the air breeze past my face as I narrowly avoided Chica's tattered and faded yellow-taloned grasp. A few more steps, and finally the door at the end seeped in through the darkness, letting me know just how close we were. I opened the door and threw Shyla inside before lunging in after her. I turned to shut the door, and standing there, only inches from the aperture, resided 2 red, bead-like eyes, glowing and cutting through the dark like blood-tipped daggers. The lightning flashed once again, and I saw him for all that he was. It was Nightmare Fredbear. He was tall and looming. His brown fur had become ripped and tattered with age. His paws, too, were tipped with spike-like digits, and his grin below those eyes was wide, too wide, as if his animatronic mouth had been stretched beyond its capacity, only now his teeth were pointed and sharp, much like his claws, long enough to span the gap of that stretched-out maw, as if he smiled with all the implications his farming thrasher of a mouth conveyed. I slammed the door shut.
What are we gonna do now?
Shyla asked. I don't know. We'll just have to wait here until help arrives. Don't worry, kid. I'll keep you safe, I said, still wearing the headset and scanning the room. The room was obviously a child's bedroom, with 2 doors, one on either side, both now locked. A large bed in the center, on one side between the doors. A closet in the center on the other side, its double-hinged doors, now partially agape.
I don't like this. Why is this happening?
Shyla inquired. I don't know. I have no idea, I blurted out, all the while trying to formulate some semblance of how and why these things were happening. An eerie, childlike music grabbed my attention away from these ponderings before I could settle on any ideas, and forced my focus to the closet instead, now glowing in a dimly lit green.
What's that? It sounds like Freddy's music box.
Shyla said out loud, but I may as well not have heard her at all. Instead, there was something there, inside the closet, and as I grew closer, I saw it to be an eye. A bright green eye. The glow of it softly lit a few details of the thing's face and countenance. It was a Freddy Fazbear animatronic, but new and dissimilar to the Nightmare Freddy, lurking on the other side of that door. No, this was more akin to the one that Shyla and I had discovered earlier, slumped on the floor, passing along the message to find someone to end all this. The thing reached out with one paw to grip the side of the door, while the other lifted and pulled the air towards it with its fingers, begging me to come forward. Its appearance seemed staticky and unstable, like the glitch trap earlier, and beckoned me to close the distance between us. This was it. This is what or who I was instructed to find. Our way of stopping this madness once and for all and surviving the night. I walked ever closer to it.
Chris, no!
Shyla yelled, but I paid her no mind, as if I still didn't hear her at all.
No, don't! It's a trap!
She yelled again, trying to warn me. But it was too late. When I finally turned to look at her, acknowledging what she was saying, I had already grown too close, and a large hand gripped my shoulder and pulled me swiftly and violently inside the closet, shutting the door. Everything went black. When I awoke, I was back in that bedroom. Shyla was gone, and I was completely alone. Wanting to check my surroundings, I tried to take off my VR headset, but couldn't. It was as if I wasn't wearing one at all. The room and everything in it still looked like that of which was rendered by the game, so this made no sense. At first, I checked the hallway, instantly shutting the door, seeing red eyes just looming above me, ready to pounce. They pound on the doors every once in a while, trying to get in, but I won't let them. But I also know that I can never leave. Confused at the start, my only portal to the outside world was beyond the exterior windows of this small room, raindrops running their length as a storm raged outside. However, when I pressed myself against the glass and looked through, it was not the storm that I saw. Everything looked fuzzy, and was only visible in black and white, like an old TV. But I saw her. It was Shyla, and she was standing with someone. Standing with me. And I finally understood. They had been scanned for this game. Every one of those damned animatronics, for accurate representation of each one. I don't know who it really was, what it really was, or how it got there. But he had led me here, to this point purposefully, and I had taken the bait. All I can do now is sit in this room, surrounded by a perpetual nightmare, forever, with no hope of escape. And I blame whatever or whoever the hell did this to me, a fate worse than death. And I'll never forget the way he looked at me, turning his head to see me while I watched him, as if knowing that I was there, helpless and hopeless, grinning as he glared back at me with the only color to be seen through those black and white portals, his brilliant, green, glowing eyes.
Okay, so Chris and this one over here didn't seem to make it. It's amazing how far technology has come. This corpse looks so real. But if you're still here, then you survived. But don't break out the survivors celebration just yet. There's more terror to be had next weekend. And until then, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so I can catch you all again next Saturday.